Okay, so this video is to show you how I moved my cleat position from a ball of the foot over the axle of the pedal to a midsole position, which in my case meant moving this cleat back 4 centimeters. So effectively from this position all the way to here. Of course, I didn't use this cleat, but switched to using a mountain bike cleat, like this one, which is the Shimano SPD mountain bike cleat. And the reason for that is that this 3-hole design, when you slide it back, is too difficult to be able to fit on this part of the shoe. Some shoes might work, but not this one. So it's easier, and you'll notice online other people doing the same thing using this mountain bike cleat design. So the first thing you need to do is find out where your midsole is on your foot. And so the way to do that, I've got a link in the notes to show you, but basically this metatarsal bone, you follow it up to where the joint is. You can feel that with your fingernail. You find that where that is, mark it with a pen, put your shoe on, and then mark it on the outside of the shoe. In my case, it was right there. And then I got on the bike and rode around, on the trainer with some flat pedals, and just got the feel of it and saw that sure enough midsole was right there, and that was most comfortable. So then once you have that in place, then the tricky part is to drill holes. And so the first thing you got to do is pull out the insole, open the shoe up, and in my case I happen to have, you can't really see it, but there's already a cut in this shoe. This is a Giro, I don't know which model, and so I just pushed, let's try it. So I pushed the sole, or the insole out, not the insole, whatever this cover is on the carbon, and lifted that up. So I was able to pull this up. And what that did was, it gave me access to what's called the T-nut, these little guys. And because basically, in order for a cleat to stay fixed to the bottom of your shoe, you've got, of course, bolts going through here, but then on the inside you've got what's called a T-nut. And so if I'm going to drill holes here in the middle of the shoe, I've got to have T-nuts that I'm going to put in on the inside here. I saw the ones in here and I thought, well, I want those. So it just happened to have a cut, so I pulled it out and I'm using those for this conversion. Now these cleats that I bought, they do, these ones, they come with, well, mine did anyway, a T-nut, which is like this. And so this would sit on, this is the inside of the shoe, and then through the sole the bolts would drill into these holes. So this is kind of big, and I didn't want to use that on the inside of my shoe. I wanted to use these smaller ones. Now let's figure out where to drill these holes. So what I did was, I've got my midsole line right here, and I followed that around. And with this shoe, because of these markers, made it easy. I basically just went from the midsole line on the side of the shoe, went over, and found a mark there, and lined it up. So I used these holes as a guide, because this is how wide the holes need to be for this other cleat to fit on here. You got to make sure that these holes are in the right spacing from left to right. And then I positioned it so that these holes, I could see the line through the holes. And what's really critical is that you want to make sure that these two new holes that you drill are, if I were to draw a line across these two holes and these two holes, it would be parallel. What you don't want is, you don't want it to be crooked like that or in any way. So essentially you're just taking the cleat that was previously in this position and just sliding it down. So I just marked them here. And that's where I'm going to drill my holes. In order to be precise, I went ahead and drilled a small hole, too small for the T-nut to fit through, as a guide. And then I'll go ahead and use this. In my case, the T-nut takes a 7mm drill bit. Then I'll use that to make the hole bigger. Once I finish this side, then I'll go and drill the other one. And in order for me to do the T-nut, so this shoe has this like canvas material in here that's over the top of the carbon fiber. So this will go in this hole, and then I'll want to cut around this so that this T-nut sinks down in, is not sticking up on the shoe bed. And so the way I do that is I just take a razor blade and go around the outside. Okay, so I cut away that material in the shape of this T-nut, and then the T-nut just goes right in place there, and it's nice and smooth, or flat, with the footbed. And then I'll cinch it down with a bolt, and it'll also pull it in tighter, because you want to make sure that the thickness of the sole of the shoe is thin enough for the screw that's going through the cleat to grab onto that T-nut. Otherwise, you're going to have to buy longer screws. The sole on this shoe happens to be pretty thin, so it reaches, but in your case you may have to get a longer screw, in which case they're M5 screws. At least that's the reference for the diameter of the screw. You just need to get a longer one. Okay, so I finished drilling both holes. The T-nuts are in there, so I'll hold those while I then install the cleat. And just tighten these down on here, line it up. Once this is tightened, of course, I'm going to need to adjust it. So you can see the cleat now, it doesn't go this direction because it's fixed two holes, but it does pivot. And that's for when you're on the pedal. You can loosen this and adjust how your foot sits on that pedal, whether it turns out this way or this way. And a good tip for doing this adjustment is to make sure that the tension on your pedal is all the way loose. Then tighten this down where you think you need it. Get on the bike, try it out, get off, and then make your necessary adjustments. That way the cleat going into the pedal is easy to go in and out because you've got the tension really loose. So I'll do that and then get on the bike and see how